All right, folks, how you doing? Welcome back. And this presentation is the Judaic colony at Aberdeen, part 1. Disclaimer. So, copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. And the source that we're going into today is when Scotland was Jewish, but in this case, it's kind of a Reader's Digest version. I would recommend actually getting the book. Get a paper copy if you possibly can. You can get it off Amazon, though you can also get it for free online. I'll post both links down below because I recognize, that not everyone has 50 quid to spare to buy books these days with the cost of living crisis and all that. But, I always say it's good to reward authors for their work. But like I say, I'll post below where you can acquire the book online or where you can purchase it off of, I got it off Amazon. And it's a really good book. So this is kind of like I say, it's like a Reader's Digest version because I got feedback that sometimes my presentations are difficult to follow. Well, in that case, I'll have to simplify it down, I guess. I don't think they're particularly difficult to follow. You just have to be paying attention, really. If they're hard to follow, it's because the authors that I'm using are hard to follow because Beaumont is all over the freaking place. Brinsley Lapoire Trench, he at first glance sounds kind of nuts. David Icke, his stuff was edited down quite a bit because he tends to repeat himself quite a bit. But so does Beaumont, actually. That's the funny thing. I guess authors do that because they want to drill home the point. But let me know in the comments if you find my presentations hard to follow. I personally don't think they're that difficult to follow, but anyway, this is, like I say, kind of like a surmised version. You get a lot more detail in the actual book itself. I'm just kind of covering the basics. And also, there's a lot of things in the book which I've kind of skipped over or glossed over or just kind of left out because I'm just trying to, get to the basics. Anyway, let's get to it. So, a crypto-Jewish borough. So, Aberdeen is located next to the North Sea in northeast Scotland. Historically, the city had direct shipping links to Norway, Sweden, Denmark, France, Russia, the Baltic countries, Germany, and Poland since at least the 12th century. By that time, Aberdeen had set up companies and factories in many of those countries, if not all of them, and was the third richest city in Scotland, even though it ranked 8th in population. The city's incredible financial and trading status and expansion was due to it being what the book describes as a crypto-Jewish borough. Jewish expulsions. So from the 12th to 19th centuries, the most powerful families in Aberdeen were Jewish. They came in 3 main stages: from the south of France, from England after King Edward expelled them in 1290. Made a video about that, by the way. Check it out. And from the Iberian Peninsula after 1492. The book now pivots to the evidence provided by religious customs, marital patterns, and burial practices. This will prove conclusively that Aberdeen was highly Judaic in character, and the book begins with the historical Saint Macer.
From the book, motherfucker, from the book.
So we've got St. Macer's Cathedral. The book claims there was no written or archaeological record of a saint called Macer having lived or even been to Aberdeen, but there is a church dedicated to a St. Macer in which important citizens have been buried since it was founded. When St. Macer's Cathedral was founded is a complete mystery, well, according to the book anyway, and it is not known who, how, or why it was established. The book then goes on to state that a Davidic teacher of the Jewish community in Provence, France, is worth looking into. Jewish migration into Britain. So Macer was his title, and he was active during the 11th century when Jews began migrating into Britain under William the Conqueror. dedicating a religious center to him would be consistent, apparently, with Talmudic practices, the book claims. The only remaining original artifact from the first house of worship from 1100 is a stone from the top of a column with a dogtooth pattern, which is consistent with Jewish and Islamic mosaics. Conversos. So the book states that there is a strong case that Aberdeen was a centre of Jewish culture and religious practices during the 11th to the mid-18th centuries. In Georgian times, the status and demographics of Jews within Britain was brought out into the open as they were integrated into a desacralised British state with the Jew Bill. A lot of Scottish crypto-Jews stayed incognito as they were citizens with full rights and were politically active. In the Iberian world, meaning Spain and Portugal, the situation was more complicated as many were branded as conversos for over 4 centuries. So here we've got St. Macher's Cathedral and St. Nicholas Kirk Graveyard. So within King's College Chapel, there are carvings with Jewish and Muslim motifs. The Findor panel from the Great Hall, now found in the chapel, also had a heraldic shield and Templar geometric symbolism. In St. Macher's Cathedral, you find an interesting ceiling. That's the picture up on the top right, with geometric shapes, which, according to the book, are also highly Jewish and Islamic. Not too dissimilar, by the way, to what you see in St. Giles Cathedral in Edinburgh, especially in the Thistle Chapel. And St. Nicholas Kirk nearby was apparently used for Jewish burials, as during a construction phase in the 18th century, the grave of a Sir Robert Davidson was opened, containing numerous important Jewish items such as a kippah. And on the bottom right, you can see the kind of flat stones there, the kind of table-shaped gravestones. Apparently, they're very Judaic. And that's another thing that resonates with Edinburgh, which is what I was saying to Jed the other day when I was recording with him. Edinburgh, the original Jerusalem presentation. There's a lot of resonances between Aberdeen and Edinburgh, which you kind of pick up on. And that's one of them, the style of the kind of the flat gravestones. In fact, if anyone knows the story of Greyfriars Bobby, the adorable wee dog who guarded his master's grave for 14 years, the grave he used to hide under and kind of lie under for shelter was one of these. It was a kind of flat table style grave like what you see on the bottom right there. And I bet of all the folk who've told the story of Greyfriars Bobby, but I bet nobody's ever pointed that out. Most likely because nobody actually knew that before. So Fyvie Castle. So the Gordon and Seaton families owned Fyvie Castle near Aberdeen during the 14th century. I think the National Trust owns it these days. The castle is replete with Jewish, Kabbalistic and Islamic imagery, including crescents carved into important parts of the building, coats of arms carved into stairways and wooden screens and panels. The ceilings have geometric and floral designs which are Judaic and Islamic, especially the entrance hall ceiling, which is what you see on the right, which has a set of interlocking triangles, which the book claims depicts the Sephirotic tree of the Kabbalah. And again, you see similar when you go into St. Giles Cathedral. Early Scottish royals, so portraits and coins of early Scottish royals are highly suggestive of a Jewish Kabbalistic connection. Kings William the Lion and David I, the Saint, for example, are depicted with twin entwined snakes, which apparently is highly Kabbalistic. Also, both kings are portrayed with crossed legs in the Templar Kabbalistic X mark. And William holds a pomegranate from the Song of Songs of King Solomon, possibly his ancestor, though I put that part in, that's not from the book, the builder of the first temple. And a coin of King Alexander III depicts 6-pointed stars. You can see that on the bottom right. So the Lion Rampant of Judah. So the Stuart dynasty show themselves to be of Davidic lineage by using the Lion Rampant and St. Andrew's Cross, the latter embodying the Judaic Templar X. The lion representing Judah which strongly suggests the divine right of the House of David. There's also a lot of Sephardic iconography from the same period of time, such as the Tau, the Tree of Life, the Star of David, the cockle shell, which was apparently a Jacobite symbol, interesting, and the three-towered castle. Bishop Fraser's seal. So the symbols of the bishops of Aberdeen and St Andrews are also highly suggestive. For example, the seal of Bishop Elphinstone of Aberdeen shows three steeples on one side set atop a structure containing the Ten Commandments. The other side shows a holy man wearing a crown with a shepherd's crook, which would represent King David, I would think, because he was a shepherd when he was younger, flanked by a crescent moon and a six-pointed star. According to the book, this suggests all three Abrahamic faiths may have been practiced in Aberdeen. Yeah, don't really see why not. William Fraser served as Bishop of St Andrews in the late 13th century. His seal shows a bishop within an arch on an X, which you see to the right, marked in the middle, and flowers embedded on both sides with a crescent moon and a six-pointed star. Very interesting. So the Fraser banner and coat of arms show even more signs of Jewish lineage, as the banner shows 6 strawberries in a triangular kind of pattern, or rebus, calling back to the French origins, the strawberry farmers or strawberry pickers. Similar floral designs were also depicted on an Italian Hebrew Bible and a prayer book from the 14th century, which I tried to look up, by the way. Couldn't find it, unfortunately. Google isn't everything. So Edward Rabin and the arms of Aberdeen. So Edward Rabin was from a German Jewish family and came to Aberdeen in the early 17th century, becoming the city's first printer. His first book for Aberdeen's burgesses was the Psalms of David, notably containing the Hebrew letters of the name of God and the main meditative device of Kabbalistic Jews. The book also states that Rabin printed the Tetragrammaton in the Torah style, Yahweh, but with no vowels. The arms of Aberdeen City incorporate 2 leopards holding a shield and 3 towers, which is very Oriental and Templar-like. So you can see that on the bottom right. The founder of King's College. So the book next focuses on Aberdeen's King's College and its founder, Bishop Elphinstone, whose surname apparently means ivory, and it comes from Jews and Arabs who dealt in the ivory trade. In the late 15th century, he was appointed Bishop of Aberdeen and St Macher's Cathedral, notably, with King James III in attendance. Must have been quite a guy for the king to be there. Elphinstone was not highborn, but rather a lawyer and a very respected ambassador. He was born in Glasgow, and his mother was thought to have been a Douglas. So Bishop William Elphinstone. As a young man, the book tells us that William Elphinstone graduated from Glasgow University with a degree in arts, ran his family estates for a time, and studied canon law. He was known as a philanthropist and highly regarded by Hector Boas, who we've seen before in the Commons Beaumont presentations, who wrote well of him. His uncle Lawrence sent him to further his study of canon law in Paris, where he was noticed by his teachers and went on to teach the subject himself. He studied civil law in Orleans and went on to become Dean of Faculty of Arts at Glasgow University. A royal borough, so later in life, Elphinstone decided to establish a university in Aberdeen, which had been a royal borough since the 12th century. By the 16th century, it was a bustling trading port with a growing population. Elphinstone became Chancellor of the university. The mediciner, not Elphinstone, just so that that's not unclear, was the first appointed professor of medicine in Britain. Subjects taught at the university included logic, physics, natural history, arithmetic, geometry, cosmography, and moral philosophy. And again, there's resonances with Edinburgh in a number of ways, like the topics there that are listed at the bottom. A lot of them, probably all of them, are taught at Edinburgh University. And also the connection with medicine, because during the Scottish Enlightenment period, Edinburgh was like the leading city in Britain, if not Europe, if not possibly the world, in fact, for medicinal studies. And yet the first professor of medicine was actually up in Aberdeen. So there's another kind of connection that you can make between the two. And also being a royal borough as well. But at the same time as well, though confusingly, this does get a bit on the confusing side, the Canongate was a separate town from Edinburgh until the middle of the 19th century. And the Canongate was established in 1128. But that doesn't mean that's when Edinburgh was established, because they were separate towns. I can't remember when Edinburgh was established as a royal borough, but I think it was around about that time period as well. I know Canongate was 1128. That's the lower half of the Royal Mile. Anyway, Hector Boas, he's referenced 9 times in The Great Deception. I counted it yesterday. So Hector Boas became headmaster of King's College, having been sought after specifically by Elphinstone. Boas taught philosophy in Paris and also studied medicine there, which is what Elphinstone and King James III were looking to push. So it looks like Elphinstone and the king were quite tight-like. Several years later, Boas was running King's College and continued to study medicine and write books. And by the mid-16th century, Greek, Latin, Hebrew, Syriac, and Chaldean were all taught at the university, as well as Plato and Aristotle. Avoriusum. I'm sorry, I apologize. I don't know how to pronounce that. Anyway, this philosophy at the bottom was also taught, which was began by Spanish Jews and Moors, interestingly. So they're teaching a very Judeo-Islamic philosophy up in Aberdeen. So I knew bravery. Is that how you say it? Bravery? That doesn't quite sound right. Breviary. Maybe that's a better way to pronounce it. By the 18th century, Hebrew was seldom, if ever, taught in English schools and universities, but it was apparently quite prominent in Scotland. In fact, it's still taught at Aberdeen University, and I know that because I looked it up. Jewish and Islamic scientific teachings were pushed, as well as many Middle Eastern languages. Religious and philosophical teachings. When Elphinstone became Bishop of Aberdeen in the late 15th century, he stopped using the Roman Catholic breviary with support from King James IV. He had a new breviary created in Edinburgh and went on to outlaw the Roman Catholic breviary in Scotland. That is King James IV, not Elphinstone. But the first book to be published in Scotland was in Edinburgh. In fact, it was on Blackfriars Street, which is just a stone throw away from the John Knox house. So there you go. So the pogroms in Spain and France, the breviary was a crypto-Jewish book. Should be a surprise to nobody. Not unlike Rabin's Davidic Psalms. There was very little Christian influence to be found in Aberdeen University, according to the book. It was more like a Babylonian Talmudic school from Provence, or the kind of secular schools that you'd find in Moorish Spain, as well as the more tolerant Christian schools in northern Spain, northeast Spain to be specific. After the pogroms in Spain and France in the late 14th century, leading intellectual Jews converted to Christianity. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the presentation. Feel free to leave your thoughts, comments, and observations down below, and I look forward to reading them. See you next time.
Turn your fucking brain on. Fuck you.